A controversial Malaysian rapper turns himself into police as they investigate his suspected involvement in the death of a Taiwanese influencer. China ramps up its claims over Taiwan as it prepares to host next year's APEC summit in Shenzhen.
中国我想在国际上对于我们明年参加在深圳举办的 APEC 大会那么附加了很多条件那这个都是违反当时的承诺。
Dozens are dead in the Philippines after Typhoon Kalmaegi, the latest storm to devastate the country this year. Plus, we look back at the life and legacy of former US Vice President Dick Cheney. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Laurel Stewart. Popular Malaysian rapper Namewee has surrendered himself to Kuala Lumpur police after being named as a person of interest in a murder investigation. Leslie Liao explains why this case is drawing attention in both Malaysia and Taiwan.
我觉得伍佰大哥的歌呢，对我来说是一个很有本土的态度。
From celebrating veteran Taiwanese singer Wu Bai to poking fun at Chinese netizens, Malaysian rapper Namewee's music is well known here in Taiwan. He's known for his unapologetic behavior and sometimes goofy personality. And that's why it came as a shock to many in Taiwan that he's been tied to a murder investigation. The victim is 31-year-old Iris Xie, an online influencer. She was found dead on October 22nd in a hotel room in Kuala Lumpur. Namewee was also there, and police found 9 blue pills on him. He was arrested on the spot, and drug tests later showed he had 4 different illegal substances in his system. At first, Xie's death was ruled a sudden death, but authorities reclassified her case as a murder and listed Namewee as a person of interest.
We initially approached this case as a sudden death, but after further review, we reclassified the cause of death and are now investigating it as a murder.
In a statement on social media, Namewee says he's turned himself into the police and that he will cooperate with the investigation. He also attached a video of himself outside the police station.
I know it's insulting, but now it's already become just a race name. No other meaning at all.
Namewee is known for his outspoken behavior. And to some extent, that's part of his appeal. But millions of his fans are now shocked at his potential involvement in this murder case. Howard Zhang, Jay Liang, and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
A former military police sergeant here in Taiwan has been indicted for spying for China. It's the latest in a crackdown on espionage in the military. Tiffany Wong reports.
Debt. That's what prosecutors say drove a former military police sergeant to give sensitive data to a suspected Chinese intelligence organization. They say the 23-year-old was looking for loans when he was targeted online. Now the former military police officer, surnamed Xu, has been indicted for leaking classified intelligence and accepting bribes.
检察官依违反贪污治罪条例、违背职务受贿罪及违反国家安全法为大陆地区泄露公务机密罪，依法提起公诉，并向法院具体求处有期徒刑6年以上之刑。
The indictment says that military police should be held to a higher moral standard. The investigation revealed that Xu filmed videos, made copies of his military ID, and shared military intelligence with a supposedly anti-war and pro-peace organization based in China in exchange for about $9,700 in loans. He also gave an analytical review of the Taiwanese TV series Zero Day Attack, which depicts a Chinese invasion of Taiwan.
目前已知的共谍案件当中呢，有将近70%都跟军方背景有关，而发展共谍的方式跟路径呢，常常是跟财务状况有关系。
In recent years, prosecutors have been cracking down on Chinese infiltration and espionage. Several cases have involved high-ranking military or government personnel using various means.
凸显中共它在渗透我国之后，通常还是会利用这个所谓黄金黑原则，就是情感或者是这金钱以及威胁利诱方法来发展它的下线。
As the military continues to weed out spies, the government is trying to strengthen incentives for soldiers to boost morale and retain loyalty, as the security and integrity of the country's biggest defense against China is critical. Delphine Chen and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
A Trump pick for a top defense job says the US is working to reduce delays in advanced weapons transfers to Taiwan.
I think on this specific case, the department is working very urgently and expeditiously to ensure that Taiwan has the capabilities that it needs to defend itself.
Dharma was responding to questions from a senator about delays in the delivery of US-made Harpoon missile systems to Taiwan. The US agreed to sell Taipei 100 of those systems during the first Trump administration. So far, only a few have been delivered. US officials have blamed supply chain issues for the delays. China is putting new demands on Taiwan for it to participate in next year's APEC forum. Taiwan's foreign minister is protesting the move, and the US is also opposed. Cadence Caranta reports.
Just days after this year's Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in South Korea wrapped up, attention has shifted to next year's summit, where Taiwan's participation is now in question. As an APEC member economy, Taiwan has the right to attend the regional forum every year, and does. But in 2026, the summit will be held in Shenzhen, China. And this week, China said that to be able to participate, Taiwan will have to comply with Beijing's One China principle, which states that Taiwan is a part of China, something Taiwan's government rejects. Taiwan's foreign minister, Lin Jialong, had this to say about the condition.
中国我想在国际上对于我们明年参加在北京在我们明年参加在深圳举办的 APEC 大会那么附加了很多条件那这个都是违反当时的承诺。我们会捍卫我们的权利，也会协调这个理念相近国家一起来加以反制。
Taiwan previously said China had guaranteed in writing that its 2026 delegation members would be able to participate equally and would be kept safe. That's as Beijing steps up efforts to intimidate Taiwan and isolate it diplomatically, and has declared promoting Taiwanese independence a serious crime. Now, it appears that whatever agreement may have been made may be off the table. In a statement, a U.S. State Department spokesperson criticized China's new requirement, saying it, quote, insists on the full and equal participation of all APEC member economies, including Taiwan, referred to as Chinese Taipei and APEC, consistent with APEC's guidelines and rules. This all comes as China says it discussed its One China principle in meetings with several countries on Tuesday, including officials from Pacific Island nations and Russia, which China said reaffirmed their commitment to the principle. It also said Russia supported UN Resolution 2758, which China interprets as supporting its claims to Taiwan, though the resolution does not in fact address Taiwan's status. In response, Taipei slammed both China and Russia.
对于俄中合流屡次挑战国际现状、贬损我国主权地位的不当主张，外交部表达严正抗议。中华民国台湾是主权独立的民主国家，与中华人民共和国互不隶属。
China also said it hoped Estonia would adhere to the One China principle after a meeting with its foreign minister, amid talks to allow Taiwan to set up a representative office in the EU member state. These countries, one expert said, are ones that will more easily accept the principle.
俄罗斯因为跟中国的关系变得越来越密切，所以俄罗斯当然很容易接受中国的这种 narrative。那另外像也许像爱沙尼亚或者是这个太平洋岛国，基本上都是小国。我们可以看就是说，支持中国对于2758号决议的这个 interpretation 的国家，基本上都是所谓的 Global South 的国家居多。
But this isn't something new. Beijing has been pushing its One China principle for many years. Its pressure and exclusion, something Taiwan has to deal with every day. But this time the Chinese government is laying down a marker a year in advance, forcing a confrontation over the issue. And it's not clear what compromise, if any, can be arrived at between now and the next APEC forum. Hank Xu and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's aviation officials are raising safety concerns over a new airport being built in China, just a few kilometers from Taiwan's outlying Jinmen Islands. The Xiang'an Airport in the coastal city of Xiamen is set to open next year and sits just over 9 kilometers from Jinmen's local airport. Taiwan's Civil Aviation Administration says some flight paths could overlap, and it's urging China to discuss air traffic coordination. China has not responded to its request. Satellite images show that over the past decade, China has expanded the island where Xiang'an Airport is located, bringing it even closer to Jinmen. People in Taiwan can now apply for cash handouts of around $300. It's part of an $18 billion special budget to help people weather inflation and the impact of US tariffs. Taiwanese nationals, foreigners with permanent residency and foreign spouses of Taiwan citizens are all eligible for the money. Locals are generally looking forward to the extra cash.
在不景气的压力当中，有一点点舒缓，所以大家第一件事情就是想到出国啊，全家能够一起去透透气啊，散散心。我觉得这个是让有一种被照顾的感觉了。
有钱来就好了，所以我不会太在乎说你到底发多少钱给我。
对一般人当然都不够啊，1万块的话，应该就日常生活用品买一买就没了。
People could start receiving the handouts as early as November 11th. The government is also warning people to be on the lookout for scams during this application process. Coming up after the break, why these remote islands in the northern Philippines are now seen as a potential flashpoint in a Taiwan Strait conflict.
How does Taiwan stay on the forefront of innovation? In a world of uncertain tariffs, wars, and shifting geopolitics. Get answers and more. From award-winning programs to exclusive Mandarin dramas. Download the TaiwanPlus app to any device today. No ads, no bias, just facts. TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back, you're watching TaiwanPlus News. Typhoon Kalmaegi has torn through the Philippines and killed at least 66 people. The typhoon brought destructive winds and flash floods to the island of Cebu. Authorities say the number of casualties is rising fast as rescue operations reach deeper into affected areas. Irene Lin reports.
Rivers in the central Philippines burst their banks. Typhoon Kalmaegi made landfall here on Tuesday, bringing what a local official called unprecedented damage to the island of Cebu. One local farmer recounts the night the typhoon swept through his hometown.
It was strong. The wind last night was very strong. It was like we were being washed. We could not understand it, and there was also a flash flood brought by it.
In Talise City, houses made from lightweight materials were torn apart. Now only ruins remain. As of Wednesday morning, the Philippine Civil Defense Office says at least 66 people are dead. That includes 6 crew members of a military helicopter that crashed while heading to provide aid. Authorities are still investigating the cause of the crash. In the meantime, the death toll is likely to climb as rescue teams try to find missing people in devastated towns along the river. In coastal provinces, thousands evacuated to emergency shelters before the storm touched land, including the school that's become a temporary evacuation center on Samar Island in the country's northeast. People here still shaken by the urgent warning to flee.
Our place there is flooded. The water rose high because of the river. It's dangerous there, though our house is okay since it's made of concrete. But we're avoiding the flood.
My family is still at home. They haven't left yet. My children are still there. I don't know where the rest of their families will evacuate to.
The Philippines is no stranger to storms and tends to face about 20 natural disasters every year. But in the last 3 months alone, the country has been battered by a magnitude 7.4 earthquake and 2 deadly storms, including Typhoon Kalmaegi that also ravaged Taiwan in late September. As Typhoon Kalmaegi now moves away toward the coast of Vietnam, residents here are beginning the painstaking work of rebuilding what has been lost to yet another storm. Andy Xue and Irene Lin for TaiwanPlus.
The Philippines' most northern province has found itself on the front lines of a geopolitical battle. With China ramping up pressure on Taiwan and the US and China grappling for dominance in the Pacific, all eyes are on the remote Batanes Islands. Zalan Shatta reports.
In the quiet Philippine province of Batanes, the indigenous Ivatan people head out to fish. On the islands known for their stunning scenery, this is how locals make a living.
A big percentage of the Ivatan's livelihood comes from fishing. Food can be very expensive since a lot is shipped from the mainland, so we all have to learn how to fish.
But this quiet life is under threat. The once quiet northern island chain is now viewed as a possible flashpoint. It's located on the front line of the competition for dominance in the Pacific between the US and China. There's also the growing tensions between China and Taiwan. Just 140 kilometers from Taiwan's southern tip, people in Batanes worry their livelihoods could be at stake if those tensions escalated into war.
If there are tensions, there's a possibility that foreign armed forces will come to Batanes and try to defend or whatever it is, and then we'll be one of the targets. It's very possible that it could happen.
The islands sit at the southern edge of the Bashi Channel, a major shipping lane between the Philippines and Taiwan. As a U.S. ally, Washington and Manila could use the strategic location to try and block China from using the channel if conflict were to break out. Joint U.S.-Philippine military drills practice deploying ground-based anti-ship missiles in nearby Luzon province to stop a Chinese fleet invading or blockading Taiwan. And with Batanes even closer to the key waterway, it could play a crucial role.
They are the islands that separate between China and of course the Philippines, and it is very strategically located in the Bashi Channel, which is very an area of interest for other countries. So some countries would want Batanes, I would say, for military purposes and for trade purposes.
The Philippine Navy is closely monitoring Batanes. It covers the country's northern frontier, but its isolation makes it vulnerable. And locals worry about transport routes being cut in a conflict, making life harder for residents who are reliant on goods being supplied.
My hope is that tensions will not rise and eventually lead to war. Nobody wins in war, yet everybody will be affected, especially civilians. We should pray that that won't happen, because given how close we are, it's inevitable that Batanes will be affected.
As China continues to ramp up pressure on Taiwan and regional tensions grow, the world watches the Bashi Channel closely. And locals fret about what could happen if their worst fears ever come to pass. Joseph Wu and Zalan Shatta for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is getting ready to celebrate the new holiday of Coast Guard Day. Ocean Affairs Council Minister Quan Bi-ling says Taiwan's Coast Guard is modernizing and it is essential to security in the region.
AI 与科技导入，海空一体的智慧巡防系统，无人科技的全面应用，让海巡从传统勤务迈向现代化。我们不只是守护台湾的海疆，更是捍卫区域和平与航行自由的重要力量。
November 8th was designated Coast Guard Day last year, but this is the first time it has been officially declared a holiday for Coast Guard personnel. Premier Zhou Rongtai said the holiday is significant given the Coast Guard's critical role in recent emergencies, from assisting with severe flooding in the country's east to protecting against African swine fever.
海巡弟兄日以继夜，不停工作，冒着危险，
去为国家、为人民去执行这样的工作。
The celebration comes after the commissioning of the Taipei, the Coast Guard's fourth 4,000-ton patrol vessel. A 2-week ban on the transport and slaughter of pigs due to cases of African swine fever is set to be lifted later this week. The government's emergency response team said after weeks of testing, the disease has been contained at the original farm in central Taiwan. Investigators said the pigs got sick from improperly cooked kitchen waste. The transport of pigs will begin again on Thursday at noon, while the sale and slaughter of pigs will resume at midnight on Friday. The incident briefly put one of the country's biggest agricultural sectors on hold. Taiwan's economy minister says Chinese online shopping platforms will not be allowed to operate in the country. It comes after officials had worried African swine fever may have come to Taiwan through overseas e-commerce shipments. Taiwan does not allow Chinese e-commerce giants such as Taobao to operate in the country. Still, their websites and products remain accessible in Taiwan. The cabinet has asked officials to strengthen controls on cross-border e-commerce. Former US Vice President Dick Cheney has died, leaving a controversial legacy. While many remember him for his role in the US war on terror and the US invasion of Iraq, he was also a notable supporter of Taiwan. John Van Trieste takes a look back at his life.
The U.S. flag atop the White House flies at half-staff, a tribute to former Vice President Dick Cheney, who died Monday, aged 84. He is widely seen as one of the most powerful vice presidents in U.S. history, and one with a still visible legacy. Cheney had a long career in government, serving as a White House chief of staff, a U.S. House lawmaker, and defense secretary under different administrations. But it's his role in U.S. wars abroad that some say he'll be remembered for. His tenure as vice president stretched from 2001 to 2009, the era of President George W. Bush and the post-9/11 U.S. war on terror, which included the invasion of Iraq.
In the case of Iraq, we have a regime that is busy enhancing its capabilities in the field of chemical and biological agents, and is, by all available evidence, speeding up its nuclear weapons program.
Those weapons of mass destruction, the reason given for the invasion, never turned up. For this and other reasons, views of him have been split for years.
I think for all those decades in government, in Congress, and in business, he'll be remembered primarily for the 2003 Iraq War, which in one way was the pinnacle of American power, and in another way was its downfall.
Because he was very much a proponent of some of the more controversial policies of the George W. Bush administration, whether you're thinking about sort of enhanced interrogations or torture, essentially, if you're thinking about sort of surveillance, the Patriot Act, or surveillance also, domestic spying on Americans, and of course his most hawkish line on the war in Iraq and being largely unapologetic about it.
In Cheney's home state of Wyoming, views are still mixed today.
His legacy, I think, will be one of the probably better vice presidents that we've had.
When I think of Dick Cheney, I of course think of the Iraq War and the war in Afghanistan, and how many U.S. lives were lost and others, and the failure of those efforts. So.
While Iraqis, who bore the brunt of U.S. intervention, have largely negative views of him.
I don't think any American official has a good legacy inside Iraq, or that any Iraqi remembers them in a good way, especially Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney had a major role in the occupation and destruction of Iraq under the pretext of nuclear weapons, which never existed. They destroyed us, and Dick Cheney specifically destroyed us. In what way can we remember him? By the voting in the Security Council, the war? He was bloodthirsty. All I can say is that he was a bloodthirsty man.
But there was more to Cheney's career than Iraq. He was also a backer of U.S. defense for Taiwan from the beginning, supporting the Taiwan Relations Act while a Congress member in 1979. As vice president, he argued forcefully for Taiwan's defense, and he visited Taiwan in retirement, even meeting President Tsai Ing-wen in 2017. And Cheney's personal politics evolved too. A staunch conservative throughout his political career, his final years saw him break ranks with his Republican Party as it came to be dominated by President Donald Trump. Cheney and Trump became strong opponents, and Cheney's daughter Liz came out as a leading anti-Trump Republican in the U.S. House of Representatives. Trump had this to say about Cheney and his family while eyeing a return to the presidency in 2022.
Cheneys are die-hard globalists and warmongers who have been plunging us into new conflicts for decades, spilling American blood and spending American treasure all over the world.
Cheney hit back, slamming Trump in a campaign ad for his daughter Liz later that year.
In our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. He tried to steal the last election using lies and violence to keep himself in power after the voters had rejected him.
In the end, Cheney went so far as to endorse Trump's Democratic opponent Kamala Harris in the 2024 election. Cheney's life and death chart the shifting story of U.S. policy and politics through an era. And while views of his legacy are hardly uniform, the stamp he left is something even his detractors have noted. Ryan Wu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Before we go, we take you to the Grand Egyptian Museum, where more than 5,000 artifacts from Tutankhamun's tomb are being displayed for the first time. I'm Laurel Stewart. Take care and see you next time.